Have I told you about the app that we're launching in May? It's an AI-powered self-discovery coach, and the feedback that we're getting has been crazy. Let me give you some. It literally felt like I was talking to a therapist. I loved it. Someone even shared an example of how they used it. So I told the app I don't like confrontation, and that's why I often don't know how to talk to others about how I feel because I don't like arguing. I loved how it literally walked me through how I can start a conversation without feeling like it was going to be a confrontation. Someone else. Love, love, love it. Congrats again. This is going to be great. It launches in May, and I couldn't be more hyped for you to use it. If you haven't already and you want to be the first one to be able to use this, sign up for the app launch waitlist, which is in the show notes, or you can visit our website at plural.com.
I was probably one of the people who always had something to say, and not like in the room full of people, but like pushing the envelope with administrators, even with like grading policies, like trip policies. Like I'm always trying to. So I was ready to have that conversation. Like my feet hurt. I'm not a sit-down teacher. Like I'm up with my students, and if what I'm wearing on my feet is going to make it difficult for us to work together, then I was ready to be out because no. So when I wasn't getting any pushback, and then a lot of other teachers started to wear sneakers as well, and it was like, okay, so we're shifting the culture ourselves.
Let's talk about college. Like when you went into college, did you already know what you wanted to do?
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Well, it's interesting too going into it because you had so many like activities and extracurricular things that you were into. So I feel like part of it is kind of maybe seeing what you want to do, but also finding out what you really don't want to do. So maybe you had some sort of idea when you went in.
So when I went to, it's so crazy. The universe always, well, if you're special, the universe will always work in your favor. And so I knew I was going to Northeastern in high school.
What do you mean you knew?
Well, you just know. Like there was no one telling me I wasn't going to Northeastern. Like I applied early decision.
Okay.
And got denied.
Yeah.
So rewind. My school took us on trips to see colleges. So freshman year we went to we went to a camp to just collectively as a grade, learn more about each other. Sophomore year we went to DC.
Your high school went to a camp?
Yeah, we went to Frost Valley, I think it was, up in the mountains.
My high school ain't shit.
Well, my high school really set me up to be phenomenal because they also introduced me to traveling and like.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so they would every year, it would be a week trip. So sophomore year they took us to DC and we went to like Maryland, the DMV, all those schools, Morgan State, University of Maryland.
Really?
We went to Georgetown, mad schools.
And those
mad schools, good schools.
Good schools too,
yeah.
yeah.
So introducing us to that.
My high school introduced me to the Bloods.
You went to Cardinal Hayes, right? Yeah. My nephew got accepted, but he chose St. Ray's, and I was like, thank goodness. Okay. No offense to, Hayes.
It's all right.
So our junior year, we went to Boston.
Okay.
So we went to...
Wait, so it wasn't just like senior year?
No.
It was like every
year we went. So 10th grade was the first college trip that we went on. They started introducing us to colleges.
Yeah.
And mind you, my high school is right down the block from here, which is crazy because we're in the hood.
Yeah.
And like they really provided those opportunities for really students who lived in these communities. And so I thought that was even more phenomenal. So then junior year we went to Boston, and we even went to like Rhode Island colleges. Like we went to Brown, we went to Rhode Island. I think it was, what is it? URI, University of Rhode Island. Yeah, we did that one. We went to Emerson, we went to BU, we went to Tufts. Like we really we were there for a week, and we went to Northeastern, and I walked onto that campus and I was blown away.
Same.
Because
I fell in love.
I fell in love. And it wasn't even like, before I even learned about what the school had to offer, I was on that campus and I felt like I belonged there. And as somebody who comes from the city, I didn't want to leave the city.
Yeah.
But I also didn't want to be on a campus where it didn't feel like a campus, because it was like maybe like a NYU, Columbia, where it's like all the buildings are embedded into the community, and so it's hard to feel like you're on campus.
Okay. Yeah.
But when I got to Northeastern,
it felt like a campus.
It felt like a campus.
Yeah.
Like even though it was in the city, buildings were embedded, right? Like Huntington Ave were like residential, but they were also dorms. Like it just felt like campus, but not campus.
Yeah.
And so I really appreciated that. That was like what sold me.
That was one thing for me, is that I didn't want to go to school in the suburbs where I wasn't in an urban environment, city type of thing, where I could like walk to the deli or walk to whatever.
And having traveled so much in the summertime, like
Yeah.
traveling abroad, I knew one, I wasn't gonna stay in New York, but two, that I also wanted like the convenience. Like I knew at that point what I wanted. Northeastern sold me on it. And then they had the co-op program. And when they said 5 years, rotating work, full-time, paid, internship, and in my head I'm like, coming again from the inner city, like that internships, like those internships will put you ahead of other people. Like I was just like, this is such an advantage. Like I am going to Northeastern.
You could leave with 2 years worth of experience.
Yes.
Full time.
Yes.
And
yes.
and like compared to our colleagues or like people our age who only had like a summer internship, in reality those are like maybe 2 months.
Yeah.
We had
6, half a year.
And it wasn't like, yo, go get me coffee. It was like actual work.
Actual work.
Yeah.
Well, my first co-op was. My second co-op, no, they were work. They were just very different industries. Like I did marketing for my first one, and then I moved into like childcare education for my second one. So I kind of knew going into Northeastern that I wanted to do education and business. So going back to how I ended up at Northeastern.
Okay.
So before even going to Northeastern, our school did career days, but their career days were different. They would go to different like companies, and we went to Alloy Marketing downtown.
Okay.
And so they had a focus group. What other, like it makes sense. You got a bunch of high school kids. They're gonna have a focus group, and I fell in love. I was like, wait, this is somebody's job. Like y'all are talking to us about why we wear certain things, when we wear them, how often we're buying them, where we're buying them. I'm like, wait, you getting paid to do this? So I'm asking questions. I'm like, well, what'd you study? Da da da. So I study marketing. Da da da. Okay, 10th grade, I knew I was going to be studying marketing wherever it is I was going. And then 11th grade, I found out about Northeastern, and so I was like, I am going to study marketing at Northeastern.
Okay.
Applied early decision. First of all, my counselor hated me because I didn't want to apply to any SUNYs, any CUNYs. Shorty almost failed me. Like, you have to apply. You need safety schools. Like, you might not get into Northeastern. And I'm like, okay. I'm also like performing top of my class. So I'm like airheaded. Like, I've got this big head. Like, there's no way Northeastern's not going to want me. But I'm also naive. I'm in this small school in the Bronx. Like, the competition's not that, you know what I mean? Like, it was easy for me to be at the top of my class.
Sure.
Like, so then you go to Northeastern and you're like, whoa, it's like big fish.
Yeah. Like
you're now that big fish is now even in a bigger ocean. And it's like, wow.
Small fish, big pond.
Yeah, small fish, big pond. So when I went to Northeastern, I, similar to you, we had to like figure out what our major was and kind of like petition in. So I got into the business school and I enjoyed the classes, but you don't really start taking your marketing classes until like your third year.
You got to take like a lot of core prerequisites.
Yeah, like the micro, the macro, the like accounting, the stuff that like makes you want to pull your hair out.
Yeah.
And then I get to the marketing courses and I'm like dying, like not enjoying them. It's
Why?
A bunch of case studies and numbers and market research. And I'm like, this isn't what I actually want to do.
What was missing from it?
The creative stuff. And so that's when I was like,
or the hands-on.
Yeah, like
I
want to I want to be a part of the market. Like, how do we develop the marketing plan? Like, what creative things, like avenues, whatever. But you all are talking about like just not the stuff I'm into, like the numbers and the.
It was a lot of like theory, and you wanted to put it into practice.
Yes.
Yeah, which is where the co-op program is like pretty dope.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so when I did my first co-op at Lexington Marketing Insurance.
Do you want me to bleep that out?
Oh, I don't care.
Okay.
Yeah, that was years ago.
Okay.
Like years ago.
I don't
Probably don't
know if
even
you
remember me.
Yeah.
I wore straight hair. They probably won't even recognize the curls.
Wait. So let's go back to applying, because so when you're applying for a co-op, which is just an internship, I don't know if you did this, but this was back when like Facebook was on and popping, right?
Oh my goodness.
And people would like censor their profiles.
Or change their names.
And change their names. Like I remember Sean, I think his name was like Mike Lowry.
Yes, for so long.
Yeah, or like I think I changed my name to something, but like I would also just like scrub my Facebook.
Yeah.
There's that, but there's also okay, now you got to start thinking about what is professionalism, how do I show up? So like tell me about like all of those things as you were thinking about it, like what are some of the things you did?
Well, lucky for me, I have a really common name, and so when people search me, it's so many people come up. So I didn't have that, like, I'm gonna scrub my Facebook Like, I was also, you're gonna see what you're gonna see. Don't go looking for what you don't want to see. So I didn't go through that like I'm scrubbing.
Really?
I was just like, don't go looking for what you want to see how I am not at work. You know what, I didn't understand. So I just didn't scrub it. It was like, you're gonna either hire me because I'm a great candidate or you're not. I didn't really, yeah, when people were going through that whole,
But you remember seeing it?
Yeah, I remember people like, oh, I gotta hide these photos or I gotta take this. Yeah, no, I was not a part of that frenzy.
That's interesting.
Sorry.
That's interesting. Okay, but then, so when you started your career, it doesn't even have to be on this one, right? But you can talk about like, because you've also worked in like so many different industries.
Yeah.
So, but you did feel the pressure maybe to do it in person.
Yes, especially for the marketing, like the insurance company that I was at.
Right, right. And that's like an old school sort of like field, insurance, financial institutions.
Gosh, it was so boring.
Because you could do like marketing and HR, like those are roles, teams that are in like every organization. So you can work for like a lot of different companies, but when we look at like finance and insurance, those are like old school type of things. So like, why did you feel the pressure?
Not so much the pressure. I think it was more so like our co-op class kind of taught us how to show up. And so, and also like, I was already straightening my hair all the time. Like I just, those kind of things. So when it was time to go interview, I was like, well, I already always have my hair straight. You know what I mean? So it just made that easier. I don't know if I felt too much pressure. It was more so like, this is what was expected.
It was just normalized.
It was normalized. It was what we were taught. And then as I progressed in my different careers, I started just, after I did, so when I graduated Northeastern, I went and worked as a marketing associate sales assistant for a private manufacturing company that did point of purchase displays. So we had, Pepsi was our biggest client, Dr. Pepper Snapper Group. And so all those end caps you see in the supermarket, Rite Aids, like my company was pushing them out. They allowed us to wear whatever we wanted. So it was in that moment.
Was that the first time where you were just like, what?
Yes, yes. And that was 6 months after graduation. And I graduated December. You guys graduated in May. I graduated earlier. So by May, June, and I started working, and they were like, yeah, you can wear whatever you want. Like, even to the interview, they were like, that's a lot.
What did you wear to the interview?
Like a blazer and like a, you know, like a flowy shirt and slacks, which I hate slacks. I hate shoes. Like all that shit is uncomfortable. Like it's just not comfortable. And it's so hard to shop for. It's just, I hate it. And so when they were like, you don't have to wear that, I was like, oh, sign me up. Like, sold. Like that just makes going to work so much easier.
Did it almost feel like not a line, this is a test?
No, because a lot of the other employees that were there when I went to go interview literally had on whatever they wanted.
Like you saw the representation of other people doing it.
Yeah. So like the sales associates, they or the salesmen, they you know, wore business suits when they would go meet clients, but they never made me feel pressured to like dress up if we were going to meet clients. I would do that just because I didn't want to be in jeans and a t-shirt next to my supervisor who's in a suit. You know what I mean? So I wanted to be just as presentable as them, but they never pressured me. But I knew that as I moved forward in whatever industry career I was gonna go into, I knew that I wasn't gonna be in a suit and like I wasn't gonna be in blazers and shirts and button-ups and like. So I transitioned into teaching.
Wait, so...
Not because of attire, but...
What were some of the things that you think you were like hiding in some ways previously, but then you got kind of like permission to like not hide as much when you started going into these other industry? Because they were like, yo, you could do whatever you want.
I don't know so much if it's permission, but there's like with the Board of Education, there's no dress code policy, right? We could wear whatever we want.
There's no formal dress code policy?
There's no dress code policy. Like I'm sure that you can't wear like ripped jeans, but I don't think there's anything in writing.
It's like unspoken rules.
Yeah, but there's no dress code for the DOE. For teachers. But the school that I worked at, they had their own school culture. And so their school culture put pressure on the staff to dress business casual.
And like, what does that mean?
Well, for women, that's a whole nother, for business casual for men and women are very different. And so women can get away with a lot more. And like I could wear, you know, like green jeans or green pants that look like jeans and like a cute shirt. whereas the man has to, or the men at the at the school would have to wear a tie. They would have to wear a button up. They would have to wear a blazer, and that was the pressure that was put on our staff from not the Department of Education, but just from our administrators, our principal, our leadership.
Right.
And my first 2 years of teaching, I'm like, yeah, fine, I'll wear the blazer, because I really wanted to teach. I was like, I'll do it. But I was also going into the program or going into teaching thinking like, yes, I could wear whatever I want. Like, this is mad lit. And then being told, no, you actually have to dress up for work. And so I was wearing blazers and button-ups and boots and shoes. And I was teacher. I was running up and down the hallways making photocopies. I was getting up and helping my students. Like, that first couple of years of teaching, I was not a sit-down teacher. I was up and moving, and I hadn't even gotten the grasp of like how to manage 30 kids. And so just a lot of moving.
Sure.
And then after a year or two, I was like, this ain't it. My feet are busted. They are hurting. Like, I have to spend so much money on boots. And because I like to wear different outfits, I'm buying like 4, 5, 6 different. It just became too costly.
Yeah, you end up having a whole separate closet.
Yes, and especially for stuff that like I'm only buying because I'm for work. Like, this is not something that I would wear, just to hang out, which it ended up transitioning into that because I'm spending so much of my money on it. So now I might as well incorporate it into my everyday wear.
Sure.
But then eventually I'm like, let me push the envelope. So I started wearing sneakers.
Wait. So in that time though, before you push the envelope, did you have any conversations with like colleagues of like, yo, your feet hurt me? Like,
I don't remember, but I do know that like a lot of my colleagues come from inner cities and like we share similar fashion. And so I remember just being, not remember, but like, I'm sure it was like, I'm just gonna start wearing sneakers. Like, this is crazy.
So you didn't tell anybody? You were just like,
No,
I'm gonna do this myself.
I'm just gonna start wearing them.
You didn't ask people like, yo, can I do this? You were just like, fuck it.
No, it was one of those, what's that saying? Don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness.
Something like that. Yeah.
Damn, I didn't ask anybody, but we also had a middle school and a high school. And the culture between the two were very different.
Well, because there's different leadership within both?
We had the same principal and we had different assistant principals, but just...
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because it's the same, because I often say like leadership comes top down.
Yeah.
Right? Like you said, the Department of Education doesn't have a policy, but within that school, if the principal wants to see a certain type of teacher look,
Yep.
like they're gonna try, right? So that's why I was asking if they had different principals, but no, so that's interesting.
So yeah, it was the same principal, and the men always had it the worst. Like, there would be ties waiting for them if they didn't have a tie.
Wait, what?
Yeah. And so a group of men, even at some point after school, and I know y'all gonna watch this and y'all are gonna be happy that I'm pointing it out because I'm gonna make them watch it. But they band together, a few of them, and they were like, we're not gonna wear ties on Friday. We're gonna have like no tie Fridays.
Right.
But then you had a collective that didn't want to participate in it.
Because they were scared.
Yeah, because they're like, well, I don't want to get in trouble.
Right.
Like, I don't want administrators to come in and be like, well, here's a tie. So it made it difficult when, you don't have a large group of people that want to jump on, because it's easy for the administration to be like, well, I have 4 ties. The 4 of you can just wear this tie, just give it back to me at the end of the day. So it makes it harder to progress those kind of movements and trying to just allow us to wear what we want and just be comfortable showing up at work.
And that's why I find it weird that you just did it yourself.
Yeah, well, because I wasn't trying to do it to shift culture. I was truly trying to do it for comfort.
Yeah.
Like I didn't care, and I was ready to have those conversations with, I was probably one of the people who always had something to say, and not like in the room full of people, but like pushing the envelope with administrators, even with like grading policies, like trip policies. Like, I'm always trying to, So I was ready to have that conversation. Like, my feet hurt. I'm not a sit-down teacher. Like, I'm up with my students, and if what I'm wearing on my feet is going to make it difficult for us to work together, then I was ready to be out, because no. So when I wasn't getting any pushback, and then a lot of other teachers started to wear sneakers as well, and it was like, okay, so we're shifting the culture ourselves.
So that's one of the first things you changed, is like, I'm gonna wear sneakers?
It wasn't just the sneakers. It was like, yeah, the sneakers, and then kind of styling it so that it didn't just look like, as less dressy. And so like I would wear the sneakers with like a blazer and a button up,
Right.
or I would wear like a Northeastern sweater and
Yeah.
like put a
It
collared shirt under it. And
slowly
so,
started to
yes.
build.
And
Yeah.
so it's like you can't say anything because I'm in sneakers, because technically I still look professional, whatever that means to them. So, yeah. And then a lot of teachers just started kind of wearing sneakers and kind of just dressing it down, or just taking the dress code down a little bit and making it a little bit more comfortable for teachers.
Well, I think that's really important to show, because I think when people think like you just got to show up the next day as like somebody completely different. But oftentimes what I hear is that like people do them in like small little increments, right? So it'll start with sneakers, and then you'd be like, oh shit, did people say something? Because I'm ready to have the convo.
Yeah.
Nobody said nothing. All right, let me do this a little bit more. Yeah, I said something. No, and then continue to do it. And if somebody does say something, now you can have a conversation about something that's very simple, like sneakers, compared to like if you come through next day to a parent teacher conference. I don't know, I'm just making this up, like sneakers and a whole like sweatsuit. I'm just right.
Yeah.
But you can even prepare yourself for those conversations because you've already had them early on around like, well, does this impact my performance? Because I'm still doing well, right? So I think that's really important to call out.
Yeah, definitely. And just also making sure, like, I was big on the students, just like feeling connected. Like,
I was just gonna ask you, like, what change did you see with your students?
well, not to toot my own horn, but students always like gravitated towards whatever I was wearing. So when I transitioned to like wearing the sneakers, it was more of just like, oh, like I didn't know you had those in your closet. Like, you know what I mean? It was, I still got the, oh, miss, that, that outfit's mad cute, or like, I love that blazer, or, oh, damn, whatever. Like, I got that. But when I started transitioning to like just that urban sneaker wear with that, that was it. It was like, miss. Then I became the sneakerhead, and I was like, I am not a sneakerhead.
Yeah.
I just have a select few sneakers that I enjoy.
Yeah.
And I'm not spending $300-400 on a pair of sneakers. If I miss it on sneakers, like I'm not going to a reseller and buying them. Like I made that very clear with them. I didn't want them to get this idea, because they're also very
Materialistic?
They're materialistic, but they're a sponge and they soak in so much. And because I was such a somebody that they respected so much, like I didn't want them to like gain those habits, because they were like, oh, Miss Ramos got all this. They're like, I want to get, you know what I mean? Not that I'm like putting myself on a pedestal like that.
Yeah.
I just know how easily students can be influenced.
Yeah.
And so it's like really easy to keep it real with them. Like, oh, and also the reason why I got these, these 12s on or something is because my mom couldn't afford them when I was in school.
Yeah.
And so now as an adult, I like kind of, feed my inner child and soothe them by going and getting things that like I really couldn't enjoy when I was, your age.
Yeah.
And so having those real conversations with them, like, yeah.
That's beautiful. And fair to say that your kids look like you, from similar neighborhoods, etc.?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Which made it even more of a joy to work with. So I mentioned earlier, like I went to high school right down the street, but I also taught the 6 years. So the people that I'm talking about, the school that I'm talking about is literally right down the street.
That's crazy.
I might go visit them after.
No way.
Maybe.
That's crazy.
Well, they're all like seniors, 11th graders right now.
Yeah.
So
what happened within the school? Everybody's just started to, like, let's say, dress a little bit more casually, but like, how was it received from the leadership though? Like eventually they needed more ties.
So eventually it's just one of those things that you technically you can't tell us to go home and change. Well, they actually had one of my coworkers go home and change, but only because they lived right down the block. And so I was just like, I promise you it's because you lived on the block. They wouldn't have sent anybody else home because of what they're wearing. But, oh shoot, they actually did send somebody else home because they came in jeans. And so that was like an envelope that like I wasn't willing to push. Like I wasn't gonna come in jeans and like a blazer and sneakers. Just because.
So even for you, there were certain things you were just
like it's not worth it. Yeah, like it just wasn't worth it. Because I also I can understand why they want students to see their teachers being presented in a professional manner, whatever that means, right?
Sure.
It gives them a sense of self, it gives them a sense of like belonging, and just not have to, but like this is what it looks like to come to work, present like well put together, ready to work. Like I get that idea, but I just think that we should have been able to just add a little razzle dazzle. But I wouldn't have pushed it with the sneaker, with the jeans.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay.
There's just some battles I'm not willing
Sure.
to, you know what I
And
mean?
you don't have to.
Yeah.
You're not, like you said, like you're not an activist.
Right.
Like you're just doing it for yourself.
Because I want to be comfortable.
Although it has impact beyond you, like
Yeah.
your thing is just like I just want to be comfortable. It's very simple, but it is dope to see, although you're only doing it for yourself, the impact that it has
Yeah.
for a bunch of other people. That's interesting. So, how do you think you were received though?
Oh, by who? The staff or the administration? I think
Yeah, administration career wise, and it doesn't even just have to be at the school, right? But you alluded to even, yo, I push a lot of like, I'm
Yeah.
asking questions. I'm like, why are
Yeah.
we doing it that way?
I don't want to say like I've always been the rebel, but I think I've always been perceived as the person who's always gonna say something. Like, don't worry, Ramos is gonna inquire, or
Really?
Ramos will get the answer, or yeah, like
But that's from like coworkers though, probably.
yeah. And then so from admin or somebody like superiors, they're probably like, oh God, this here she comes. I even get that from my supervisor now. Like I was like, oh, I have a question. She's like, of course you do. I'm like, great, because you'd rather me do it wrong.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, yeah.
no, so I'm definitely perceived as like the inquisitive one. Like I'm always asking questions. I want to make sure it's right.
Inquisitive is a nice word. What are some other words that people have used?
Well, I don't know if they've ever used them. This is what I'm assuming that they.
Oh, these are just you. Oh,
Yeah, I
interesting.
don't know. I mean, but people.
So you've never received feedback of
I
like,
mean, Michael. But that's the thing. My coworkers are always telling me like, thank you for sharing, or thank you for like. So I'm
oh, of course, because yeah, you're the one that is saying what everyone is thinking.
right.
But
In a
those,
nice way.
yes.
Sometimes.
But those are coworkers. I'm saying like, I mean, even in performance reviews, right? Like there's data out there that says like people of color are often perceived one way while this other person would have been perceived that like one person would have been perceived as inquisitive or just like curious and some other one would have been like disruptive. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, in all of my careers, I really haven't had like
Interesting.
a performance review, and like yes, in teaching, right? Like we're constantly being observed and we're constantly being given feedback, but it's on my pedagogy and how I'm in
Yo, what?
my teaching, my pedagogy.
What the fuck is that?
Like you're teaching,
What the fuck is a pedagogy?
your pedagogy is like what you're teaching.
Okay.
So like what? So okay. So like they come in and they observe you on
no,
your
yeah.
teaching.
Sure, sure.
And so it's never that kind of feedback. It's more of like instructional feedback. So like what can you do to reach more students? Or how
Sure.
could you plan this lesson in a different way? Right? It's never like, oh man, you know, Ramos, like I think you were too harsh on those kids. Like, you know what I mean? Like I don't ever get that kind of feedback. It was always that just technical work feedback.
But okay,
Even now with
okay.
my supervisor, we don't even have meetings. Sorry, I mean, they don't know where I work. So, but like the last time I had a check-in meeting with my supervisor, it was every time when I was having them, she would just be like, all right, like, I don't know what we're meeting about. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So there was never really an opportunity for me to ever know from her if I was doing a great job.
Yeah.
Aside from like the work that I do now, I'm a facilitator and a college access career readiness counselor. So the work that I do, I get feedback from like participants and they'll
Sure.
say like, oh my God, energetic, whatever, but never from like my superiors in the workplace.
Interesting.
Even with my first job outside of, like when I first graduated from Northeastern and I was at the
Yeah.
manufacturing company,
Yeah.
I was there for maybe 3 years and they never sat me down and were like, all right, like, let's go over how you've gone, like what you've been up to, like, where can we progress you?
That's terrible.
Yeah, and that's why I was out. Well, that's why I was out. I was like, and it was also a small company. I knew there wasn't room for growth. And that's
Sure.
when I, parted ways and went into the DOE.
Yeah, but that's terrible. Like feedback is so important.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like how do you know if you're doing something well or, need to continue doing yeah, like that's so important.
Well, I always took it as if you don't tell me I'm doing it wrong,
Yeah.
then I'm going to keep doing it.
That's fair. That's fair. And it's also good that you haven't received pushback for just like how you are, who you
Yeah.
are.
And it's so crazy
That's
because
good,
we just had a conversation.
Well, besides the like subtle little comments potentially.
Yeah.
Right. So like, oh, Ramos is doing this again.
Yeah. Well, we had a conversation at my current job about dress code. And I was like fueling inside. Like I already felt the heat because I can't stand when you hire somebody and then you want to make changes like years into them being there. Yeah. And so they just had all these dress codes and this, you can't wear that and you can't wear this. And I was just like, where's this coming from? Like, did somebody in this office do or wear something inappropriate that is causing this to be the conversation? Like, I was floored that y'all are gonna waste our time talking about how we dress in this office. Like, floored. And everybody was like, yeah, like, where did this come from? And I'm like, thank you. Like, that needs to be the start of this conversation. Like, we are having this conversation because, and they just said it was from higher up. And I was just like, I can't.
Yeah.
But then we had supervisors still wearing whatever they wanted. And I fell into the category of like coming in with ripped jeans. And, you know, because when I started, no one said I couldn't wear it. And when I was wearing my ripped jeans, and I'm talking about ripped jeans, like they were ripped. Like my supervisor saw them and she was like, you look homeless. And I was like, okay. She's also like senior citizen age. So she has a different,
sure.
You know what I mean? Like they see ripped jeans and yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. My grandma, if I say hookah, she thinks I'm smoking crack.
Oh my
in
goodness.
an alley somewhere. Yeah, of course. Very different.
Different.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So I'm definitely the one to ask questions, push the envelope, and.
What about your hair? Did you have any like, even like, the color red? You know what I mean? Like, did you have any insecurities about like, how's this going to affect my career, my job, etc.? Or are you just still just like, this is just what I want to do?
Yeah, honestly, like, no. I never considered, like, I mean, I also dye my hair when I'm already at a job. Not that it's not very purposeful. That's just how it happens. Like, when I was in the DOE, I had went in as like a honey blonde. And then maybe 2 years into it, like I dyed it red, right? And so they're not gonna be like, you can't work here, your hair is red, you know what I mean? And then when I got the job that I had now, I was that honey blonde brown because the red had faded, and then I threw the red back on. So I'm never too worried about how I'm perceived with my red hair. I just think it matches my personality, and if, you know, like, it just reinforces who I am.
That's so funny because the same things that you're just like, oh, that would never happen. It's like the same fears that people have, so they think the opposite.
Yeah.
And now I'm curious. I'm just like, where does that come from?
Because they're
You even said the word earlier. You said naive. Like you were like, yeah, I'm just naive. And like what some people call like I often say like I'm delusional. And some people will see that as like a negative, but I think it's like a positive.
Yeah, no, I'm delusional.
Like your naiveness allows you to do a lot of shit that people are too scared to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But where do you get that from?
I don't know.
Like, would you say like your mom is naive?
No, I don't know. Maybe. Ooh, maybe she is. She's gullible. She's gullible. Like, okay. I could make her think something that's totally not true. But naive, no. I don't know. She's always created a space for me to do what I wanted. My mom in high school, she was a hairstylist, and so she colored my hair often in high school. And so I was already at a young age already experimenting in my hair. So that wasn't anything like too much as an adult that I was worried about. Yeah.
Tell me more about your relationship with your mom, because I think that's so. I think oftentimes, and this is usually how I start the conversation, but oftentimes, I think who we end up becoming has so much to do about like how we grew up.
Yeah.
And our parents and family, their expectations for us often like really form that as well. And first of all, you and your mom are like twins.
And we're best friends.
That's so cool. What sort of expectations do you think your mom had for you growing up?
She didn't.
So she was never the one to like put pressure on you. She was just like,
no, whatever
you want to do.
Yeah. Like, I did good in school because I wanted to, not because she was like, you got to do good in school. Da, 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 da. Like, I went to school every day because I wanted to. Like, she never had an issue waking me up. And she'll say this, like, never had an issue, like, waking me up. She would go to work and she would just know that I would, you know, get myself ready and go to school. So she never put those pressures and expectations on me. Even, like, when I traveled throughout the summer, with the YMCA in high school, she wouldn't know sometimes until like I'm bringing her like the letter of destination, like, hey mom, I got accepted to this program, like I'm going to Costa Rica for the summer. And she's like, what? I'm like, how? And then there's like all these questions come up. No, so she really just gave me the space to explore, do what I wanted, make mistakes.
And you were like, sounds even like you were very independent at an early age.
Yeah.
Like your mom went to work, you were like getting yourself ready for school and all those kind of things. Interesting. It's almost like many times you didn't need to seek permission because you're just like, I gotta make this happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe
Or I just didn't want to bother her. You know what I mean? Like, my
more.
father passed away when I was 9, and so she was a single mom. So I'm 9, my brother's 10, and so she had to figure it out on her own. And so I didn't ever want to be like a burden. And so it was like, well, I'll just go figure it out, or I'll like go find something to do. Or, you know, I spent a lot of time at my friend's house. Then she raised me, my brother, and her younger brother. And it was just a lot. Like, I knew it was a lot. And so a big part of my high school, it was just trying to be less of a burden to make it easier for her, because I saw how difficult it was raising boys. Like, I was like, shoot, I don't want to add any more, you know what I mean? And I had already given her a run for her money in middle school.
A run for her money?
Yeah. I was that kid, oh my gosh. And I've met myself in students that I've taught, but like I was that student in middle school, and not all middle school, but like I had a few moments in middle school where I was like, call my mom, and like mom was coming to school like midday because I was acting out. And
acting out how?
Just being disrespectful to teachers, like,
really?
Yeah, but I was also very big on like, don't talk to me in a way that you don't want me to speak to you. I was also mature, right? And so some teachers would want to be combative, and I'm like, you don't want to be combative with me because I'm gonna go there with you. So yeah, so that was that. And then it even transferred into high school.
That's interesting of you being labeled as like whatever, but in many ways that was you just defending yourself. Because they talk to you a certain way. You're like, yo.
Yeah.
But now you're the one speaking up, and okay.
And now that I'm thinking about it, like I was creating those boundaries for myself at a young age. And even like in high school, I would get suspended, like in-house suspension, never for fighting or anything, but because of the interactions I would have with teachers. And it's like, you're not going to talk to me like that. Like, you're not going to make me feel this way. Like, and I would get in trouble for it. And I would never get in trouble at home by it, because my mom is like, I know who you are. Like, I know who I've raised. And like, you're not going to say anything too reckless if it's not provoked. And so even with my teaching, when I went into teaching, I used to start my class every first day of school with, you know, going through the consequences and, you know, of your behaviors. And I used to say to them, you know, what did I used to say to them? Damn, it slipped. It was something along the lines of like, you know, I'm not afraid to say what I'm going to say. You know what I mean? Like, we can always go there. Just make sure that you're ready to say whatever it is you said to get that reaction from me. Because I'm ready to tell your mom, my principal, admin, whoever, I will stand by what I said. Just make sure you're ready to stand on what you say too. And that, they don't give me no problems for the most part. But, you know, I used to make it very clear, like, stand on what you say, because I'm going to stand on what I say.
I could see why you want to be so involved in education early, I don't want to say child, but like early youth or whatever. Because as much opportunity as it gave you and shaped who you were later in your interests and all those kind of things, it also gave you these like bad nicknames, if you will. You know what I mean? Like that was one of the times where you would get in trouble. Like, you wouldn't get in trouble at home that much, but like if you did get in trouble at home, it was because of school. So in some ways you want to be that teacher that was like actually talking respectfully to certain kids, or created that environment where you did feel comfortable and safe to like speak up and do all those things, because you weren't allowed to growing up.
Yeah. And it's crazy because I also, for a point in my childhood, didn't feel comfortable expressing myself. Like, I felt like I couldn't.
Why?
Just because I felt like I might get in trouble, or like it might be received the wrong way. Maybe not so much from like my mom, but like, you know, like other family members. And so I even remember like one time being like, trying to call like a family meeting and being like, no one can talk unless you have the baby powder in your hand.
The baby powder.
Yes. And like, it was a big F you because it just, you know, everybody was like, ah, and I was like, okay. So I almost want to say like, I maybe didn't feel safe talking about how I felt. And so I had to find other places to kind of express whatever I was feeling. You know what I mean? And so it was getting in school and, you know, with my friends and stuff like that. But
you just tied a fucking bow on this bitch. You just tied a bow on this bitch.
Good.
Wait, why? Tell me more about the family dynamic. Why didn't you feel safe? It was just like everybody was too loud and you maybe, I don't know, yeah.
No, it was more so like if it wasn't a certain family member's perspective, then it wasn't right. And so if my perspective went against what that perspective was, it wasn't a very pleasant situation for me.
Do you think it had to do with your age? Like why?
No, I think it had a lot to do with just the passing of my father and like my mom just trying to like appease and make sure that everybody is feeling seen, heard, and valued. But she also, we have these conversations as adults. These are really hard conversations to have as adults. And I think that's a big reason why my mom and I are best friends is because we were able to have these hard conversations. But like, her feeling like she had to give a little bit more to my brother because he was the oldest and lost his father, right? Where I still have like my mom and like, you know what I mean? Like he lost, it was a different dynamic, right? They always say like how much boys need their fathers.
Sure.
So she felt like she had to overcompensate, but in overcompensating for him, she like kind of lacked in ways where she shouldn't have lacked in showing up for me.
That's fair.
So, which also probably kind of leads to the independence stuff with high school, where it's just like, I already know you're doing so much for everyone else. Like, let me not even be that burden for you.
Yeah. And then I often say like, your most authentic self is the version of yourself that you weren't allowed to be. Hence why you're so outspoken these days, because growing up, maybe you weren't allowed to be outspoken.
And what's so crazy, my mom and I are both, we're both in education. We graduated.
I thought you were about to say some horoscope
what?
shit.
No, I don't.
We're both Scorpios.
No. No, but we're both educators, and I've been able to, because you had mentioned like how I've had different careers in different industries, and that's a testament to her, because growing up, I'd always see her go from one job to another, or not one, like she wasn't like a job hopper, but she also wasn't staying somewhere she wasn't happy. And so that was really influential for me to see, because as I'm changing careers and making shifts and jumping, and I know, like I've watched her do it and I know I'm gonna be okay. And to see her, I tell people this all the time, it doesn't matter how old you are, like you can truly like figure out your dream and pursue it. My mom and I graduated with our masters. Like we walked across the stage like a week apart from each other.
Way.
Yes.
1 week apart?
Like a week apart, yeah. And it was like phenomenal to like share that with her. And like then we both went in. Well, I was already teaching at that point in the DOE, and then she transitioned into the DOE. And she's not that far from here, and in fact, maybe I'll go have lunch with her.
How many stomps are you making?
Too many. I'm back in my old stomping grounds, and now I got everybody to see. But no, she actually works down the block from Cardinal Hayes. So she's not that far. But it's such a small world. This is a sidebar, but her principal is the mother to one of my former students. And so we're like this, and every time I pop in to go see my mom, I'll go see the principal because that was my former parent. And her daughter will be there, and she's like in 11th grade now. But I had her daughter when she was in 7th.
That's crazy.
And a lot of the students that my mom teaches, I have their siblings, like their older siblings. And yeah. So we're even tied, like we're best friends, but even in our careers, like we can't get away from each other.
Fortunately, or unfortunately.
No, I don't know.
All right, so as we wrap up, what's the one thing that continues to inspire you to continue being your most authentic self?
So that other people can be their authentic self. Period.
Mi gente, that wraps up another episode of the Quién, Eres podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard, please do us a favor. Like, share, comment wherever you're listening to this episode. Be sure to follow, subscribe, and leave us a rating and review if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Thank you, and see you next time.